I love this quote from Dr. Martin Luther King, who reminds us that the goal is to create a beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our souls as well as a quantitative change in our lives. I'd like to share with you a little bit about my journey to discovering the power of the beloved community. My journey began with the demise of Enron in 2001. My husband had been working for Enron for several years, and I am a native of Texas. And the Houston market pretty much crashed, and we found ourselves in Richmond, Virginia. We packed up our 3 little girls and we moved here, and I came here somewhat kicking and screaming, not really wanting to leave Texas. And when I arrived here, I ended up in a community that is a suburban area with a lot of other people who had been transferred to Richmond, a lot of relocators. And I found myself really suffering from a poverty of relationships, very, very much lonely in my new home. And one day I was standing at the bus stop, and the lovely woman over here on the far left, the blonde hair, came up to me at the bus stop, and she said, "How do you like Richmond?" And I was very honest, and I said, "I don't." And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Well, I just don't know how to get to know people here." And she said, "Well, what did you used to do back in Texas?" And I said, "Well, I was a small group coordinator for my church, and I help people connect and do life together." And she said, "Well, that sounds great. Could you do that here?" And I said, "Well, not really. It'd be kind of lonely. It'd be me and my dog and my cat because I don't know anybody." And she said, "Well, I have a lot of friends in the neighborhood. I'll invite my friends, and if you'll facilitate it, we'll do that here." So my first small group was 6 Catholic ladies, a Presbyterian, and me, and I'm very much an ecumenical mutt. So it was wonderful. I got to know my neighbors at a deeper level, and we built what we called the Yada Yadas, and that group grew and grew and grew, and before I knew it, we had 7 small groups made up of women from all across our little neighborhood with over 70 women involved. And I discovered the power of a beloved community and really started to appreciate how much richer life is when you're doing life with other people. And it was those women in my small group that really encouraged me to follow my dream and to go to seminary. So I went to Baptist Theological Seminary in Richmond, and in 2003 I took my first class in Christian ethics. And in that class, we were studying the writings of Dorothy Day. And Dorothy Day says that she experienced a very real, tangible presence of Jesus when she was serving the poor in New York City during the Depression. And I'm a very experiential learner, so I decided that I wanted to experience that same richness. So I signed up for Caritas, which is a local shelter program. And that night that I volunteered, first night I ever did anything like this, I met a lovely young woman. You see her picture in the upper right, named Shannon. And that night, Shannon told me her story. She told me how she had grown up in the suburbs, had been in an automobile accident, and then she had gotten addicted to prescription drugs and was then became addicted to heroin. So that night, Shannon told me her story, and it was in hearing her story of how she very well could be my literal neighbor. She had grown up very close to the suburban neighborhood where I live. And that night, I really felt called to literally just walk with her. And she and I became friends, and I would go hang out at the shelter with her. And then she got out of the shelter and moved into housing. And I would go visit her. Her location was very close to the school where I was, and I would eat a meal with her and have conversations with her. And I watched her go from being elated at being in her own place to frustrated, irritated, and depressed. And one day I said, you know, what's going on? And she said, day after day, I sit in this apartment with nothing to do. And I'm scared. I'm scared I'm going to go crazy, or worse, I'm going to go back to the streets. And I said, well, what is it you want to do with your life? And she said, I just want to help people because so many people help me. And that's how Embrace Richmond got started. We got started because a woman who had experienced homelessness wanted to give back. And we started out quite simply. The women in my women's ministry began donating furniture and household items to people who were exiting local shelters. And we started getting these two groups together. We would meet downtown and offer assistance. And everyone who came to receive anything from us, we invited them to come back and give back, be part of the team. And what emerged was this amazing, beloved community of people, everybody giving what they had to try to improve the lives of others. And I was hooked. That's the kind of ministry I knew I wanted to be a part of. And the rest is quite an amazing journey since then. That grew and it grew and it grew. And before I knew it, we had a 30,000 square feet warehouse and a lot of staff, and we became the largest furniture bank on the Eastern Seaboard. Now, I didn't set out to start a furniture bank. I set out to be a beloved community. And so in 2008, we spun the furniture bank part off to Caritas. And the reason why I include this part of the story is because I watch other organizations do the same thing. They'll identify a particular need, and before they know it, the community piece gets pushed to the back and the relief part takes over. And that's exactly what happened. As we grew bigger and bigger, I spent less time just hanging out with people, getting to know their story, and really being a part of community. And we became a program. And the rest of our story is our journey back from moving from a program to really focusing on the people.